today's session, and we've started with some couple of topics to usher us into Azure administration and also DevOps as a whole, right? And we're starting from the basics and migrating into the Azure administration um, as a capacity to be able to work in, right? And one of the things that we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about the introduction, which I want us to I want us to just do like a small recap, right? We've spoken about an introduction. One of the things we started with was the introduction to Azure, right? We talked about the services, the architecture, opening an account in Azure. Understanding, that was when we looked at management group, and we also looked at the hierarchy of um, of Azure resources that starts with a root management group. Then we have individual management group that depends on the structure of your companies, right? And then we also have subscription. Then we have the resource group and the resource itself. Now we spoke about Azure Compute Service, like creating of virtual machines, app services. We also worked on app services, and we deployed a few service. We deployed the app service and the app service plan. We also deployed a virtual machine and also configure the NSG, the inbound rule. Then the third week, we all spoke about the networking aspect, right? Virtual network as a service or as a resource in Azure. We spoke about VNet integration. We did a walkthrough on subnet creation, how to calculate subnet, and how to manage your subnet. We worked on the network security group, and also I showed you around managing Azure DNS, just the basics of DNS largely, right? Where we have a DNS, you have a DNS, and we're able to manage the DNS, add DNS subdomain, configure the root domain, and also map it to either a CNAME or an IP. So those are just what I just spoke about, are just some of the things we've covered. And on this session, we'll be talking about storage account, right? I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Just give me a minute. Can you see my screen now? Can anyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. Good evening.
All right, good evening. All right, so one of the things we're talking about today, or what the topic for today, right, is storage account. When I say storage account in Azure means different thing, right? One of the thing, let me just give you an overview of what I'm trying to talk about. Nice. All right, good. So let's talk about the architecture of storage accounts, right? So you remember I was talking about introduction to Azure the other time, And I mentioned the management group, the subscriptions, the resource group, and the resource itself. You notice here, so majorly we don't really go when you remember when we're trying to create resources, you don't select management group. As far as the subscription is already in a management group, that is picked by default. You can pick it based on runtime. When I mean on runtime, when you're trying to create resources, right? So this is an example. We have your subscription, the resource group where you want to create your storage account, and we have a storage account, right? In a storage account, we have a table storage, a queue storage, a file storage, and a storage container, right? So based on the name, you definitely know that you're trying to use the storage account to save um, some of your resources, right? It could be a text file, it could be an exe, it could be um, it could be anything that you're trying to save, as far as it's compatible with the extension of each of these types of storage accounts that we have, right? And so like now, this is it. This is the storage account. We have a blob, we have a table, we have a file, we have a queue, we have a disk, right? And this disk, you know that we've already spoken about it when we're creating a virtual machine. Remember, your virtual machine cannot even start up without a disk. So we might not talk about it, but the main ones are blob storage files and and um queue now. So this is the examples, right? So for container, which is mostly used, especially in an environment that you have to do with application development, right? You use mostly containers, which in containers, what you use is blob storage. We'll see all these things when we are trying to create um, a storage account, right? So we are trying to, once you create a container, you're having a blob. Oh, they ask you, oh, we need to create a blob. We need to store our videos. We need to store our images, right? So let me give you an example. When you open an application now and you see some images going, scrolling, some of them are scrolling, they are pointing to a storage account somewhere, right? Except some application developer that add those image into the application itself, which adding image and video will make the size of your application become larger. Right? You don't want to do that, right? So when in an organized settings, you prefer to reference a storage account where those things will just be working on slides, right? Do you understand? So we have you see the types of files you can save there. We have images, document, videos, audios, big data, backups, your database backups, right? You can also, um, um, what's it called? Save it there, and the database itself, the logs, a lot of logs, right? I hope I have an application already deployed that is already integrated to an Azure in storage account, which I will show you. I'll still go through it if it's available. And tables, right? Tables, you have an entity. So when I mean an entity, you have a name and email, a name, then email. You have a photo ID or and a date. It's just like an you're uploading something that has metadata that you need at runtime or you need at any time. Or you're trying to export it from a what's it called database, right? And queue, you have messages, right? You have messages and you have message to download, images to download, and you also have images to resize. Um, a lot of companies hardly use the queue or the tables because there's already a database, right? And they don't use the message or the queue because there is already a service bus, right? But the most important one there is the container and the files. right? So in files, you already know and you have directory. You understand? Files is like having what's it called? Files is like saving odd. The same way I have my every of this in my system, I can have the same thing in files too, right? It can be a TXT, it can be an EXE, it can be anything, right? You're just saving it there. You can just, oh, I have um, a course. You can just decide to save your course inside. You can decide to, as far as you can save it on your system, you can definitely save it in files, right? Do you understand? Uh, you see the URL by default. You see that it will be the name of your storage account .blob.core.windows.net. And if you're creating a table, it will be your storage account name .table.core.windows. And if it's Q, it's going to be .q. If it's files, it's going to be .file. You understand? So now we'll now go to the demo by creating um, an Azure storage account. So like you can come here and search for it. You can come to the right left hand side and also use it also. Where is the storage account? So there are some services that are here, excuse me, are here by default, like app service plan functional. Those are frequently used services in Azure. So they are by default pinned here, right? Like Active Directory and the likes, SQL database. So like storage account, we go to storage account. You see that we have a lot of storage accounts. Storage accounts, if you're, I don't think in this bootcamp we'll be talking about Terraform, provisioning resources with Terraform, right? We might just have to do that in a separate bootcamp. So I'll have said in Terraform, it's always advisable to save your state file in a storage account so that you'll be able to manage it and nobody will be able to make changes to your state file anyhow. So first is create a storage account. All right, like I mentioned the other time, you have to pick your subscription, then Bootcamp 2025. Storage name, let's just say Bootcamp 25. If it's available, you get it, but it says it's not available. Uh, okay. All right. I hope it's available anyway. So, region, I think we're using West Europe, so we can use that. Primary service. So, are you using, is it your primary service? Is it a blob storage or is it an Azure service or other, right? Like I mentioned, we hardly use it, right? Is it the tables and the queue? So the one mostly is that we use is the blob storage, right? Then you can now choose, is there a standard you want to create or you want a premium? So the standard, like it says, standard is recommended for most case scenario, right? For application development for anything is recommended. For premium is recommended for scenario that require low latency. When I mean low latency is for like now in application development, if there's a video that is playing, or maybe you have a website that loads video, loads a lot of images, right? You want to use premium because of the latency. Then yeah, redundancy, right? We all know what redundancy mean is, right? It's just a form of making sure that there's a failover should there be an issue with where the primary place of deployment, right? We have a local redundancy, we have geo redundancy, there is zonal zone redundancy, right? Then we also have geo zone redundancy. So make read access available in the event of regional UC. So in the event of regional unavailability, it needs to be available uh, in another region, right? That means you're creating a failover in a different region. So now that my primary region is West Europe, it's going to create a failover in North Europe. Do you understand? So for data recovery, business continuity plan, you might want to do this, especially when your company is key on business continuity in case of disaster or in case of an issue. You understand? But because of the purpose of this bootcamp, I might not need it because there's probability I might forget to delete this. So, but let's just leave it. I'll look into it later. Then the next thing is that the advanced settings. Now, the advanced setting is saying, do you require REST API? Of course, you want to enable that, right? Allow enabling anonymous access on individual containers. Right? This depends, right? It depends on the kind of infrastructure your company is or is using. If it's an infrastructure where a lot of things are private, you might not want to allow this. If it's an environment where, oh, this Blob is just for dev environment, you can access it anywhere, or you have an application, an application is deployed into Google Play Store or App Store. So definitely you want your application to be able to access it. Or of course, you'll be calling it through an API if you're using APIM or something, a backend service or something, right? You want to enable that. So you might decide to enable this depending on what you want. Minimum TLS version. Okay, let me move to the next one. Enable storage account access key. Yes, of course, because you need it to access your what's it called, storage account. You need an access key or a SAS key. So I'm still going to show you that. Default to Microsoft Entra authorization in Azure Portal, right? So what this is saying is it wants you to be using your Azure Active Directory to access the storage account, which in this case we don't need that. Even most companies that I've consulted for, we don't enable it. But I've worked for a company that we enabled it for all our storage accounts. So if you want to access it, you have to use the Active Directory. Minimum teleservice, definitely you want to use version 1.2. You don't want the security team to come for you. Now, says permitted scope for copy operation from any storage account, from storage account in the same, from storage account that have private, you might want to put it here, right? But it depends on what your company is, and what your company architecture is. Is it privately airtight resources, right? You might want to do that. Or if it's an environment that your security posture is very important to you, you might want to change that to storage account in the same Microsoft tenant. That means only maybe CAM as a service or an Azure storage, and I want to copy something from CAM's environment, right? Or CAM storage account to my storage account, it will not be possible, right? Because his storage account is not in my tenant. But if it's in my tenant, you'll be able to access it, right? So that's that. Enable IIQ namespace. We don't need that. Blob storage, data provision and by default, yes. So enable SFTP. This is especially for environment that use SFTP to copy data from one place to another, right? There's a different service called SFTP for copying data from one environment to the other, from one pipeline to another pipeline. So you don't need to do this now. You don't need that actually. So allow cross-tenant replication now. Absurd. That means when it says allow cross-tenant replication, that means like the example I gave for CAM environment. That means if I enable this, so it's going to tell me, okay, I should link it to CAM's what's it called, tenant, which I wouldn't want. Do you understand? So access tier, right? So if you frequently access resources, right? If you frequently access resources on the storage account, oh, I need to pick this, you're picking it. I need to pick this, you're picking it. Then you need to leave it in auth, right? But if you just need maybe once in 2 weeks, you might need to put it in um pool. But if it's just for your archive, let me just store my data here. I'm not storing any data in iCloud. I'm not storing it in Google Cloud, right? Or Google Drive rather. Sorry. So I'll leave it as code, right? In some cases, it's called archive. So, but if you're accessing it frequently, you put it as auth. But because of the purpose of this call, let's leave it at auth. That's not a problem. So enable large file. This is enabled by default. Right, then you go to the next option. Next option is the networking aspect. Excuse me. Do you want to access it publicly or through a virtual network? Or disable public access to it and use the private access. Private access is you're connecting a private link within your Azure resources. So it's going through internal Azure network from one resources to another, or publicly from within different VNets, right? But it's basically inside Azure, right? That's the meaning of the private access. Do you understand? So we most likely, because you've enabled anonymous access, so most likely you want everybody to be able to connect to it, or all developers to be able to connect to it when they are working on their environment. So you might want to leave it like this. Um, you want to leave it at network routing. If you had picked disable public access and use private assets, you would need to configure this private endpoint here. But we didn't enable it, so there's no need. So the next thing is for you to click on next. So data protection. So enable point in time restore for containers. You want to do this because you don't want to mistakenly delete your um, container. So soft delete, restore point 7 is fine. With enter with point in time requires versioning. Okay, yes. Then I'm going to enable versioning here. I think I've disabled versioning at one point in time. So once I see it, I'm going to bring it back. So enable soft delete for Blob. Yes, of course. That means if you delete anything, it's not going to permanently delete until after 7 days. Right? Soft delete for containers too, soft delete for file share. This is the versioning, yes. This is the tracking and versioning. That means I can enable this. So what's going on? Yeah, that's it. You understand? So keep all logs. Definitely I want to keep all logs. Um the next this access control. When you anything you see access control, it talks about permission, right? If you a point in time permission, or the one you want to collect a permanent permission to be able to control the environment. The next one is encryption. It is what I've been looking for. I thought I've missed it earlier. So you want to use Microsoft encryption, managed key, right? If you have your own managed key, a lot of company does. You can come here and start configuring your managed key. You see, encryption key you have to select from keyboard, and key you have to select from somewhere. So, but we don't have any customer managed key. We only have Microsoft encryption. Now, remember when I showed you this? You remember I showed you this, right? You have a blob table, files, and queue, right? So by default, this is what you to create. Blob and maybe files. Do you understand? So, but you have to explicitly enable the other ones. Do you understand? So it's just going to create blob and files by default. And once you create it, you can't change it again. You have to delete and recreate. So at this point, you need to be sure that, oh, you won't need these other ones again, the files and queue. Remember, I told you that was why I said blob and files are very important. So that's what we use daily. We hardly use the other types. So that's why I said you need to confirm from your team, from the company, if you're using the other types of storage. So, well, for me, I usually create the other ones. Remember the option. This option cannot be changed after the account is created, storage account is created. That means you have to delete it or you create another one. Do you understand? So I usually create everything. It's not consuming anything, right? So should there be a need for me to just use for queue, I'll use it. But I've not found myself in that position. So I just always, instead of me trying to delete and deleting and creating a new one. So that's why I just leave it like this. Then the next ones are the tags, which you can add by default. So you can do that. Then the next one is review and create. This one does the, for every service that you create, it does the validation to be sure that everything is correct before creating. So you have to wait for the validation, and it seems we're good. So you can go through it again, the name, the types, the kind of settings. SFTP is always disabled, except you're creating that storage account for the SFTP account, SFTP service. So then you need to go through it again and create. It takes about some minutes, right? Like all other service, but because it's not like app service that it needs to create an app service, I mean, an app service plan first before it creates an app service. So this just creates the storage account and it doesn't take as much time as the other one. That was what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so it's status has been accepted. Then it's creating. So you can see that it has created. Then you click on go to resources. So this is the storage account. This is the overview. Everything that you've configured, you see them here. Right? The REST API is definitely enabled. Access from all network, right? So anybody on this call will be able to access it. Um, yes. Um, yep. Okay. So now you've been able to you've been able to see how it looks like the storage account. Let me just go through all these options that we have. You already know activity. I don't know, maybe I've spoken about it. Let me just go through it on this course since we still have a bit of time, right? So for activity logs, you check all the activities that is going on your resources. Every resources in Azure has these activity logs. Every resources in Azure also have the tags, right? Once you see the tags, you want to create tags, you can also update it here. Diagnosis, every resources in Azure has diagnosis and solve. You want to troubleshoot your application, you want to troubleshoot the storage account, right? You can come here and see if there's an issue, if a connectivity issue, authenticator issue, authentication issue, um, issue with firewalls and issue with SFTP. You can come here and just troubleshoot before you this helps me a lot, right? If anybody say, "Oh, my application is not working," this is the first, or they say, someone comes to me and say, "Oh, this application that I deployed is slow or it's down." This is the first place I come, right? I come to and just check what's going on. You understand? Let me just give you let me digress a bit and show you what I mean. So that would really help in terms of troubleshooting. You understand? So let me use this application as an example. Right, this is an app service that we deploy. I deployed, right? But it's still the same thing as the one we did on the call the last time. So diagnosis, you see the same thing, overview, tags, diagnosis, and so, and all resources also have access control, where you give explicit permissions to a user. Oh, I don't want other users to have access to every other thing. I only want that user to have access to only this resource. You can grant the permission from here. So you see, it gives you, once you come in, it gives you a lot of troubleshooting. If you're having issues with SSL, you come here, you check what is wrong with your SSL. If you're having issues with configuration management, for an overview, it gives you what is actually wrong. It says custom auto is not enabled. That means you need to come to settings and enable it, right? Uh, Currently not utilizing health check. It wants you to utilize health check, right? These are very simple, right? And distributing your application across multiple instances. Okay, so it's saying that your app service plan is running one instance and you're having more than one application there. So this doesn't really mean, right? Although it contributes to performance issue, but then um based on Azure itself, what's it called? A B series app service plan, I guess, right? Can accommodate up to 4 app service. So I think I'm still in the care and I'm still in the clear. So we're still good. So everything looks nothing really major here. So you can close that. Then if your application is slow, you can come to application is slow, web app is slow, or application is down, you can come to web app is down. So two things. When your application performance is slow, two things you need to check. Check the CPU memory, then check application is slow. Application is slow would definitely point to CPU at one point in time. So you can just click on where web app is down. So it gives you an analysis of your application. So this web app was down between today for there was a performance issue. Yes, look at it. Between today, what's this time? Today is 22. Yes, at 3:45. And 3:45 a.m. I don't know who is trying to reach the sites at 3:45 a.m. though. So you see, there's a performance issue. You understand? Oh, and look at it, there's memory too. So if you know the nature of your application, you know the type of application, then you know how to troubleshoot this. But for this, I think I just want me to scale up. The application that was deployed is just the portfolio. Do you understand? So you shouldn't be taking up memory. It's not even what's it called? A full-fledged application like React and the other ones. Do you understand? So that's just diagnosis and so on. And you can check every other thing here too. So the same thing, maybe you're having a performance and throughput issue on storage. You need to click on it and it gives you like a breakdown of probably what's going on, what you can do, and how you can resolve it. Do you understand? So access control, you just want to give somebody access to the storage account. Do you understand? Or you can, if you can see it, you can say, oh, I need to know my access, check my access. So it's going to check the kind of access that you have. No, check access. Check access is for other people. View my access is for yourself. So it's going to tell you, okay, you are the owner of this role, this subscription. You inherit it from this. That means this permission was granted to me from the subscription level. You understand? That's why I have a owner role. So that's why. But if you see these resources, that means the permission was granted to from this resource, not from the subscription. So you cannot see anything related to other services on the subscription level. So data migration, probably you want to do select the type of scenario. You don't want to go into this event. You want to trigger an event that triggers say, a resource on this what's it called storage account. Then the storage account browser. The browser itself, you see the blob containers, the file, the queue, or the table. Right? You can click on blob. So you see you have a lot of you have these are just predefined, something we just created now. So you can create a blob and say, oh, the blob is for my document or my school. Oh, sorry, caps. School, school docs. Mm. Then you can't. That means you can't use caps at all. School docs. You can make it private because it's only you that want to access it. Do you understand? And you can make it anonymous read for blob or container anonymous read for blob container and blob, right? So because of this is my school docs, I might want to make it private. You can do an advanced um, you can use an encryption, enable versioning, right? That means if you are uploading the same document, it's going to be creating a new version, new version. If you upload maybe your NYC document this time, uh, is upload version one, and you upload another one. I don't know. I don't know the kind of changes that you want to make to your NYC document. It uploads a different version too. Do you understand? So and you can create. So it has created it, then just click here and start uploading. If you want to organize it into a directory file, but you can start uploading, drag file. Let me open this. So, so is it auth? Auth, you don't want auth, right? You just want it to be code because it's archive. Code and archive is the same thing. I think the difference between code and archive is the number of years you want to leave it for. Do you understand? So I'll do archive. I'm just trying to archive my document and click on upload. The same thing goes for files too. So I won't really talk about queue and tables. Um, what you're seeing here is the same thing that you're seeing here also, but you're just going to be accessing it individually. The container, click on container, you see that you see all the things we created based on the container here, school docs. Do you understand? And files, if you just want to start uploading everything that is on your system, you can start creating files. Do you understand? Um, network. Just give me like a minute. Once I'm done, I'll give you time for questions and answer. Then the networking, I think we've spoken about that in terms of access. Yes, we've spoken at the private endpoint custom domain. Yeah. Front door, we don't have any front door or CDN configured. Yes, this is the access key, right? I've consulted. I'm currently consulting for a company that rotates this key, right, every 6 months. So it's just like that means every 6 months you need to go everywhere that you're using this access key, you need to go and change it. It's a lot of work, especially when you have a lot of a lot of application or project that uses this what's it called? This storage account. Do you understand? So you have to rotate it every 6 months. Do you understand? So you can click on show and hide. That's just it. Shared access signature. I think this is one of the most important one to understand. So you say allowed access. That means the credential you want to create, what type of file do you want it to allow? allow access to blobs, files, queues, and tables, excuse me. The allowed resource type container, of course. What do you want the permission to be able to read, write, delete? You don't want to delete. You don't want to permanently delete. Do you understand? What period do you want the permission to last? If it's for your application, right, especially for your front-end application, you might need to put it maybe 1 year or 2 years, right? You might want to say 6. Sorry, my monitor just went off. Let me just see. But can you guys see the screen, folks?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Like the portal, right?
Yes, I see you on calendar February 2025.
Okay. For some reason, the monitor is
Okay, it has gone off now.
okay. All right. So can you see the portal now? So you can do 2 years
Yes.
or 5 years. That's 2030. Do you understand? And probably the front end application has a particular IP, right? And ingress, no, not ingress, egress, right? You can add the allowed IP here. That is also gives you a level of security over this, what's it called? Over this key that you want to create. Do you understand? So you can say, oh, you can only access it from this IP. So definitely, even an attacker sees your as SAS key, they won't be able to use it because they don't have access to the IP. You understand? So is it HTTP only or HTTP? You said HTTP. So generate SAS key and connection strings. So this is the SAS key. You understand? So you can either copy this guy to the front end guys or yeah, this guy. If you are using Blob, if you are connected to the Blob container, this container, you use that. If it's files, you use this, and if it's queue and table, you use this. You understand? Then data management, redundancy, I spoke about that. Data protection, we already spoke about that when we were configuring. We don't need, let me see this. But I didn't create the SAS key, so it doesn't mean. So all these have already been enabled. We've already seen all this configuration in when we were creating. So these are just logs where you can monitor your data. But I, because of the college record as well, you can monitor your application, enable diagnostics. This is very important, right? Add it to a log analytics. What do you want to monitor? Is it the blob? Is it the queue, the file? You can say the blob. Then you link it to a log analytics workspace, right? It helps you to troubleshoot. Do you understand? So that's that. I hope I've been able to cover majority of this. Yes. So that's um that's just like an overview of storage account, how to use your storage account, how to create your storage account, and how to use it. What are the ways in which you can use it, and what you use it for. You understand? We spoke about the architecture also. And please don't forget the container is for blobs. The files is for directory, like a system. The queue message for what's it called? Yeah, what's it called? Service bus kind of extensions, and the table and entity more like different type of. I think it's a different type of database that you can use to save your services in the storage account. So that would be the end of this session, right? So does anybody have any question? So we can call it a day.
So I just want to clarify. Um,
Mhm.
this storage account, is it more or less like a database, or is quite just like for storing data, or because I think probably I missed the part of that or something. Because I could
Um,
see queue file, I could see table and all of that.
yes, exactly. You can use it for that also. Do you understand?
Okay.
That
Okay.
was why I said, but I think I mentioned the statement where you don't really need a queue and a table, right? When you already have a database that is doing that already. You understand?
So if you have a database, you don't need to create a storage account.
No, 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 no. You remember what I said during the creation? I said even while creating it, right?
Mm.
You only have your container and your files selected by default, right? So that's where you use for storing your videos, your files, your different extensions, your images, anything you want, even EXE, right? You can save it there. And I also give an example of it's just the same thing as an S3 bucket in an AWS. Do you understand? I think what I'll be
Yeah.
doing now is I'll be linking the service in Azure to what it is in AWS so that some of you
AWS.
that has um, experience in AWS, you understand what we are talking about. Do you understand?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, come, please go ahead.
Okay, so I understand that this storage account is quite different from when you're creating a virtual machine. So in a situation, so to my own understanding, in a situation where you are creating, where you have an application that you want to put up in the web, you use virtual machine to do that. But then
Mhm.
the storage, what we
Sorry, I
just
didn't get that.
created.
Sorry, I didn't get that. I think I
Okay,
missed that.
okay. So what I'm saying is, so for we created storage group, and then we
Resource group.
yeah no, what I'm saying is, so we're talking about storage today. So
Mm-hmm.
the storage we have on when we're creating a virtual machine, we create storage for our applications, and if you want to put up
Can
maybe
anybody hear
application in
you?
the
I
web.
think I lost.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for about a minute there.
Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, you mentioned that we mentioned disk when you were starting, and you said that when
Mm-hmm.
creating a virtual machine,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to create a disk, obviously, because you want
Mm-hmm.
your applications to have storage and the rest of them. Now,
Mm-hmm.
why? So the storage we created today is basically not for applications that will push in the web. Just maybe your will I say things you have that you just want to keep safe in the web, or just you just want to
Yes.
keep your files safe in the web.
Yes. Yes. That was why I gave an example of
NYC certificate.
yes, you get your resources that you want to save, and I also give an example of your application, right? I don't know the application you use for your banking application, right? If there are some images that does a slide in your banking application, right? You can even slide them as you when they're advertising their promo. Do you understand? Or you go to let me see. You see all these images here, all these images
Yes.
that are changing in some application, in some web environment, it's coming from a storage account. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it's
Yes.
saved in a storage account. So even some of these things are saved in a storage account, except for these ones that has price tags on them. Do you understand? Except for these ones. But even some of them, like now, let me give you an example. you want to onboard in an in a mobile application. Do you understand? Any application, mobile, either mobile or web. Do you understand? And they ask you to submit your identity, your NIM, your BVN, or the file itself. You upload your BVN file or anything that they or your international passport or your passport itself. Do you know that it does not go to the database? It goes to a storage account. It gets saved in a storage account. Do you understand? And
Okay.
it's being referenced from a storage account to the people on the back end so that they will be able to approve your profile. Do you understand what I'm trying to say now?
Yes, I do. So
Uh-huh.
basically, the storage on your virtual machine is totally different or does different
So
thing.
so it's the same thing, but it does different thing.
Okay,
Do you
okay. Now
understand?
I
Okay, let me.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. No, 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 not this. Let me go to resource group. Where's resource group? Okay, let me just come here. Resource group. I think this is personal. Yes. Then I come here. So I created the virtual machine DevOps, right? So we start from here. DevOps. This is the virtual machine, right? This is the public IP. This is the energy. This is the network interface, and this is the disk. Let's see if there's still a storage account. There's no storage account. Okay, I didn't enable it. I didn't enable it. Okay, so what that storage account is what that storage account is doing is helping you to troubleshoot your virtual machine. When you notice that your virtual machine is not up, it helps you to save logs inside that storage account. So that when the application, the virtual machine is not up, you can go to the storage account and check what is going on. Do you understand? But it's still the same storage account. Just that there's possible the reason why we don't use those ones is because there's possibility that I might say I don't need that storage account that virtual machine again, and I delete the virtual machine. It's going to delete the storage account, and you will have saved your files there. So that's why it's always important that you separate them. Do you understand? So even if you come to storage account, look at this. I didn't use my hand to create this. Do you understand? This was created because I'm using this shell portal. Do you get? So it just created by default. So except I manually come here and delete it. So I'm about to. You can change the shell at any time. No storage account required. Use. So you notice. I think it's creating a different one. So once it's creating if it's finished creating the terminal, I will check if I'll refresh it to be sure that it doesn't create a new storage account. Do you understand? So it depends on what you're doing. You might need a storage account or not, but storage account is generally for where to store your what's it called? To store your resources, your files, your extension, your backups. Okay, yeah, that's good to Azure. That's right. Your backups and your files. Do you understand? Let me see. Okay, still using this. It will have created a new one. So do you understand now? Tam, are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you. Sorry, I was trying to
All right,
unmute myself.
all right, no problem. So is there any other question before we call it today, please? All right, so in the absence of no other question, we'll just call it today and we'll meet next week. I think let me just see. What we'll be talking about next week. Oh, really? So next week we'll be talking about, wow. Sorry. Oh, I was so scared that I think I'm seeing a different thing. We'll be talking about identity and access management, right? We'll be talking about identity and access management. So that should be an interesting class. The first thing I saw was Terraform. I was like, oh, Terraform so fast. So, but that's not what we're talking about now. So it's identity and access management. Thank you for your time today. We'll meet next week.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Do enjoy the rest of the day or evening.